Hey team, Marty the OT guy here from Nozomi Networks, back for another Friday Q&A session. This week we've had a customer from the manufacturing sector in the United States ask us to do a little bit more of a deep dive into our new Mandiant Threat Intelligence expansion in Vantage. So let's take a look. Let's go! So a few months back we released a new feature into Vantage, which was the threat cards, and at that same time we released the Mandiant Threat Intelligence expansion. To look at this, to understand how this works better, take a bit more of a deep dive, let's start with something simple first. So let's say in my job I need to produce a report of our most vulnerable assets in the field. We want to know what the vulnerabilities are, what the scores are, which asset it's on, has the vulnerability been exploited in the wild, and triage that or sort that list in order of most important first. So it's a pretty simple query to run. And we could use something like this, where the query that's listed here, it's pretty simple. We're looking at the node CVEs table. We are filtering out by is KEV equals true, so is a known exploited vulnerability, where probability is confirmed. So that's looking at the individual assets in our environment saying, does it really have this vulnerability? Have we confirmed that this vulnerability is present and not patched? With a risk score greater than or equal to 8. Now, obviously you could change that number. It could be 9 or 9.5 or whatever you need. We're using the unique CVE there just to stop doubling up on CVEs. Otherwise this list could get quite long. And then we're selecting the nodes, the CVE, the score, the weakness enumeration name and summary, just so we understand a bit more about the CVEs, and then sorting in descending order by the risk score. And you can see the results we get here. It's pretty useful, right? It's telling me the devices within the network that need to be, or that have these vulnerabilities. It's telling me what the vulnerabilities are. It's giving me an idea of the score. It's pretty simple. So you could take this, you could export it, and then you could track down these nodes and go around one at a time and find out what needs to be done to mitigate that particular vulnerability. And I think the key is right there. It's now I take this, I've got this info, which is really good, but now I've got it, I still have to go away and find out more information and find out how to patch these issues. And that's sort of the really cool part about the Mandiant expansions when we're looking at vulnerabilities here. Let's take a look a little deeper. So now I've changed over to the Threat Intelligence page, and this is showing the top part of the page is showing some pie charts there, which slice and dice industries, countries, malware types. That's all pretty cool. Just below that we have a search bar and we have some filters that we can click on, click off. And the bottom half of the page are the individual threat cards. So to recreate a result set similar, but not exactly identical to the query we just ran, it's as simple as 3 clicks. And all I have to do is add some filtering here. And I'm going to say, have vulnerabilities, high risk, and move over one more for actively exploited. And the reason I'm demonstrating vulnerabilities and not alerts, I have no alerts at the moment, but we might demo that later. I'll find some malware and I'll demo that later. So now I've got a result set here of 9 threat cards to deal with. And again, I could screenshot this and export it, or I can dig deeper. I can find out more about the individual products, which is kind of cool. So we're going to dive into one of these threat cards. We're going to use this one here and take a look at the kind of information that the threat intelligence and particularly the Mandiant expansions add to the information that we've got. So if I click on more info, immediately at the top I have a much better description of what's going on. And I can see the products that, the versions of Cisco firmware that this is affected, that are affected by this. I can see the versions of Rockwell Allen Bradley devices that are affected by this. On the right hand side, I've got the risk level. I've got date first seen, date last seen. Down around the middle here, we have some simple details, some bullet point details. That makes it really easy to help summarize this for leadership, management, decision makers, perhaps. We have our exploitation state, whether it's been observed in the wild, the type of vector that this is exploiting, whether this affects an OT environment or not, what the available mitigation is for this, whether it was a 0 day, and what the consequence is. And we have some references below that. The references, we can click on the link and go out to an external web page and pull back some more information. And this is already easier, because when we had our query before, I now had to jump out to Google or wherever, grab a CVE number, start trawling through pages of information. Here it's just click, go, bang. It's a one-stop shop. The workarounds button up here, if I click that, it tells us what possibilities or what options we have available. And you can see for this particular one, aside from the available vendor fix, we're unaware of any alternate mitigation procedures for this vulnerability. So it's pretty much telling you what to do. Summary, the summary gives us, again, it's simple text that you could copy, paste, cut and paste, whichever you wanted, and drop into a report to escalate to other parties who may need to know this information to make decisions and decide what to do next. Coming down further, it's showing the vulnerabilities, and we're seeing the actual asset names that this applies to. Again, it's good, simple information. If there were alerts associated to this, if perhaps we'd seen this exploited, which had triggered an alert, and we were now working our way through the alert management and response process, there would be something in the alerts page here. So this is the kind of information that we get when we're using the Mandiant Threat Intelligence expansions. It goes a lot further than just a simple query. In fact, to me, the real time saver here, the real ROI in my mind, is the ease of access to external information to help you build a better picture of what's going on in your environment. Let's take a little look at the external references. So the first one here labeled exploit, when we click this external link, we're taken to the exploit database where there's a Python script. It looks a lot like a proof of concept. So you may need to use that. It may just be proof. It might help you develop some tools for searching within your network for the presence of this information, perhaps. The other thing we would look at is we go to the vendor advisory. So we'd click here and it would take us to the vendor advisory, Cisco's page here, which explains, like any vendor does with any CVE, they give a good explanation, they give the options for mitigation, and you've got the information you need there at hand. So as I've said, this makes gathering threat intelligence and gathering information to make decisions, in my mind, it makes it so much easier. And I really do think that that's where the return on investment is in simple terms here. Let's look at some other options and some other cards. Looking at this particular threat card for a CVE that was present under those same filter conditions we started with, now we can see it's a little bit more, one, it's not as risky this time. The score's a little bit lower, but there's more detail here. So we can see that we have some malware and some threat actors associated with this, which again, it just provides simple, easy to access information to help with decision making and response or reaction activities. Each of the cards that are shown within the threat actors and malware goes off links to additional information. And if I look at the APT28 one here, and we click more info, we get to a page which gives us even more information again, shows us geographically where activity has been detected for this group, more external references again, We have a MITRE Enterprise, a matrix there showing how they're using different TTPs. We have a list here of which threat intelligence items, packet rules, Yara rules, Sigma sticks, are present within the Nozomi products that relate to this particular threat actor group. And again, at the bottom, we have alerts. So we're expanding that information that's available to us. I would say you could lose more than a day, maybe, of man hours if you tried to collect all of this information yourself. You simply might not collect all this information yourself. You could miss something. So I mentioned earlier that I would move some malware around the lab to trigger some alerts so that we could take a look at how the threat cards and extensions appear within alerts when they happen in your environment. So you can see here I've got a malware alert come up, or suspicious activity, and some IOCs. And when we click into this alert, it populates the top half of the screen pretty much the same as any other alert. But what we get is we get a related threat cards section. And if you have an alert which has no related threat cards, this section won't be visible. But here we can see that we have some related threat cards. So this immediately gives me a link to click and go straight through to the threat intelligence, the database, and the new extensive resources that we have available, and begin to dig deeper. So if we select one of these links, we come through here, we get that same explanation at the top, the description, we have the first and last seen dates, we have the external references, we have the threat intelligence indicators which are present, or the threat intelligence indicators that relate to this particular threat, and of course we see the alerts at the bottom. So again, it's all about how fast you can respond to an alert, gather the information you need, determine your next steps, and then execute upon those next steps. And I think, again, said it before, that the real ROI in this is how fast you can get that information together to be able to make decisions in your space. Right, so if you're a Vantage customer and you'd like to have a demo experience with the new Mandiant expansion there, what you can do in Vantage is you can activate a trial period, and we covered that in video a month or so back. So what we're going to do here is replay that little short chunk of video to show how to enable that trial period for the threat intelligence expansion. And yeah, let's hope to see a whole lot of you sign up, jump in, have a go. No credit card required. Like all trials, we'll head over to our administration page. And here we select licenses, and you'll see at the bottom we have the Nozomi TI expansion pack powered by Mandiant. But it tells us it's not available, so that means the license hasn't been activated yet. We can click the Start 30-day trial link, and now we have our trial enabled, and you can see we have 30 days remaining. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this one. I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, don't forget, reach out to me or to your Nozomi Networks representative. And we've got one more slot left before Christmas for a question and answer. So if you've got a question, something about our products, something about our features, leave a comment down below, message me, whatever it happens, however you need to do it. Get your question in, we'll get a video for you by the end of next week. See ya.